Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Mid-South Wrestling Review Series for January 22nd, 1983. We are fastly moving through the year of 1983. Well, not that fast, but going to have a lot up today and hopefully be able to bring you a lot of entertainment. We are brought to the dance this particular episode with the Junkyard Dog on his hiatus. He talks about going back to visit family, talks about wrestling in other territories, talks about being glad to be back. He's been gone for, I believe, 90 days was the original plan. 60 or 90 days was the original plan. And he's been gone, obviously. Stagger Lee has been doing the Junkyard Dogs matches and such. And, of course, that is, in fact, the Junkyard Dog under a mask. Marty Lundy, otherwise known as Arn Anderson, Tom Ernesto, in a tag match versus Horner and Art Cruz, Tim Horner and Art Cruz, as the opening match for today's particular program. Basic match here. Horner, really an enjoyable guy and, a big deal. Big drop kick by Horner, and we see kind of some hip tosses. Anderson bails out lower in a hurry and comes back in a little frustrated. Horner comes in with some arm drags and goes up and over. Cruz comes in. Cruz, more of an enhancement talent, not a guy that you see a ton from. Tag off to Cruz, and he's taking care of the opponent of Lundy, Ernesto, and ultimately, just watching Marty Lundy, aka Arn Anderson, in this role is so exciting. He does the short knee to the spine that you later see with the Brainbusters. They do the switched tag and all of that. The tag off is there, and hard shots, and we see an Irish whip and a back elbow by Ernesto, and again we see some tags there, and ultimately we see the cutoff by the heels in the corner, and the match kind of breaks down into a more heel-dominated match for a few minutes here, which is always good, and good for the heels to get some heat on them. Ernesto manages to get a tag to Tim Horner. Tim Horner fires up. A little goofy with the, whoa, fire, but in a rookie year, what do you expect from a guy? Anyway, big back body drop on Cruz, and he hits a big body slam. Horner at this point looks like he should have $1 million worth of potential in him, and he just never realizes it. Big slam by Anderson on Lundy rather, and all four guys get in the ring. They kind of go nuts with each other for a few minutes. The tag match breaks down into a bit of a brawl. Referee loses a good bit of control. Actually, almost gets run over at a point, but manages to get out of the way at the right time. Fez press by Horner on Cruz, and there is the victory. We move into a decent match, Mr. Wrestling 2, and I think this is from Houston. Wrestling 2 against Tully Blanchard. Blanchard, of course, a mainstay in Texas for his father's territory in Southwestern for quite a while. Joe Blanchard, of course, Tully's father. Tessa Blanchard, third-generation wrestler, and just interesting how sometimes families go in that direction. Anyway, we see lots of headlocks from Wrestling 2, takeovers and the like, and again with the takeovers and stepping on Blanchard and all of that. Hard shot, and again we've seen Wrestling 2 will use brawling type maneuvers. Actually throws the referee out of the ring, so I guess there must have been a bigger issue between Blanchard and Wrestling 2 for him to get angry enough to throw the referee out of the ring. He also offers a bounty on the benefit of the mask, talks about how he's received bloody masks, he's received damaged masks, and all of that. He does not know who's doing it, so offering a bounty to get an advantage there. Louisiana champion Jim Duggan versus Buddy Landell up next. And, Duggan continues to be a major force in world class and in Mid South. I keep wanting to call it world class because I did so much with world class. But Duggan continues to be a major force. Landell manages to hit a couple of offensive maneuvers, including but not limited to an atomic drop. Duggan takes him to the corner and just brawls his way through dominating the young Landell. Landell probably hits his stride within about 3 or 4 years here, but learned so much about the wrestling craft in this area. And he's on his knees trying to fight up from underneath, and Duggan always cuts him off with brawling tactics. Duggan at this point has learned to kind of master the pacing of a match quite well. Does what we later begin to know as the Oklahoma Stampede into the corner and runs 2 corners, ramming his adversary into it, and then hits a stun gun across the top rope, and Duggan there with a running football tackle type maneuver and gets a victory there. Ted DiBiase up next. He still thinks Stagger Lee is the Junkyard Dog. Obviously, Lee is supposed to, I believe, face DiBiase for reasons, but he's not showing up, and that becomes an issue. Kelly Kiniski, I guess they're trying to put him over. It doesn't really make sense to me because they don't really do a whole bunch with him during this Mid-South run, but he's against Tony Torres on this particular outing. Super basic match. I kind of wonder about its placement in the program. Could have put it on earlier, and it would have made more sense to my brain, but I'm sure Bill Watts has a better brain than I do when it comes to placement of matches. I will say Mid-South always has, good wrestling to interview ratio, which is something that today's wrestling doesn't do. Big arm drags on Kiniski throughout. Torres actually taking the majority of the early part of the match. Of course, Kiniski doesn't really find his role in wrestling, at least in my mind, until later in 85, 86 in world class, probably. Something like that. But he manages to get some body slams here, get some ride time, and, inverted chin locks and the like. Slower match. Torres, though, gets the early part of the match, which is odd because he's never been portrayed as a guy who's really, pushed. So him taking the early part of the match is surprising. There's a botched spot where he actually jumps into the ropes, and then we see Kiniski, the second generation star, with a back suplex. 1, 2, and 3 gets the victory off the back suplex. The tag team champions, Ted DiBiase and Matt Bourne, against Don Bass and Joe Stark. Again, not quite sure why the champions are in an enhancement match, but it is what it is. And then, obviously the champions kind of going, actually, in this particular episode, they do not have the belts with them, so I don't know if they've lost the championships at this point. But anyway, DiBiase, tries to go for one of the enhancement talents pretty early. Of course, DiBiase, a massive heel here in the area ever since turning on JYD. That feud never really paid off completely. And Bourne, being a second generation star, gets some early wrestling, mat wrestling style stuff off on one of the enhancement talents. I believe it's Stark who starts the match and shoot off. We see Bourne take over quite heavily on his adversary here, and DiBiase comes in. DiBiase also manages to get shots, and DiBiase, obviously second generation. His mother and stepfather, Iron Mike DiBiase, both wrestlers, and so he's kind of got a level of knowledge. DiBiase looking a little stockier here, might be putting on some weight or something. It's just an interesting thing. He looks a little bloated in this particular offering. Other people might not see it. Tag off to Bourne, and Bourne just kind of palm thrust clotheslines his opponent. DiBiase comes back in, hits a power slam, and gets a victory there. Tony Atlas up next, and Tugboat Taylor. Not a very long match, as they only have about 7 minutes left in the program. Taylor, a guy who kind of does enhancement talent work throughout the territories for the next several years. I don't remember seeing him much before Global, but then I wasn't around for the territories, becoming a fan in '89. So it'll be interesting to see his journey throughout. Atlas and Duggan still not complete as a feud, but an enhancement talent match here, and we see kind of uh, tough Tony Atlas, big Tony Atlas, a powerful Tony Atlas, whatever have you, whatever superlative you want to give a guy that can muscle around anybody, including but not limited to a vertical suplex on Tug Taylor here, and Atlas tries to muscle him around. That's the story of the match, really. Atlas hits a drop kick, actually one-footed drop kick. Weird to see Tony with a little bit more flying maneuvers. Tony Atlas, I believe, pre-pandemic, still around wrestling upon occasion. Tony tries to beel Big Tug Taylor out of the corner. That does not go well. Taylor doesn't leave his feet. It was awkward. Tony gets a big body slam on the guy, and actually, I think wins. Nope, does not win on the body slam. Gets a kick out there, but Tony goes for a sleeper and actually wins with a sleeper, which is a weird thing. But I think Tony had different plans and couldn't get him up for maybe the press slam that he would normally use or whatever have you. Chavo Guerrero Jr. discusses Gino Hernandez being an underhanded, dirty player and wanting future matches with Hernandez. And that will close us out for this particular episode. We will be back with more right after this.